Hello, everybody, and welcome to Galactic Wisdom. Oh, you know what? My camera looks a bit dusty there. So I've discovered something interesting. There are people who have a condition, a mental condition called aphantasia. And aphantasia is this condition where these people cannot visualize things inside their minds. They cannot form pictures inside their minds. So if you ask them to think of an apple, they cannot visualize an apple in their minds. They know what an apple is. They know what it tastes like. They can recognize an apple if they were to see one, but they can't form an image in their minds of an apple. So this condition is called aphantasia. A meaning not, and fantasia meaning something visual. And I have had at least two people with aphantasia who have attended my online contact events, my online meditations. And so I'm guiding them through a meditation and I'm saying, imagine you're doing this, imagine you're doing that. And they're not forming any images in their minds. But then when we start to open up our psychic vision and we start remote viewing, then they start seeing images in their minds. So they're unable to form images in their minds, but when we're doing remote viewing, psychic stuff, then they start getting images in their minds. This is very strong evidence for the psychic perceptions that people are experiencing during my remote viewing activities and contact activities being psychic perception. This is pretty much proof of psychic perceptions. So I have interviewed a couple of these aphantasics, as they're called, and I am going to play you a couple of short videos of those interviews. And they're just short 2-minute videos, and I will talk after each one. Here we go. Am I right that you have aphantasia?
Yes, I have aphantasia.
And what is that?
Aphantasia is when you have a lack of pictures in your mind. Like if somebody tells you to imagine a beach or a location, most people see a picture of that place, and I just see blackness. There's nothing there.
Am I right that you have aphantasia?
Yes, I have what would be the, I guess, considered visual aphantasia. No complete, no mind's eye, no closed eye visuals, no sort of imagining things visually.
So does that mean if I were to say to you, try and imagine an elephant, even though you know what an elephant is, and if you saw an elephant, you would recognize it, you can't form the picture of an elephant in your mind?
Correct.
I did not discover I even had this, or it was even a thing until about a year and a half ago. So the concept, the idea of, imagine your happy place, or thinking of counting sheep as you're going. I always thought that was like just a metaphor for cartoons or something, but it wasn't something you could actually do. So, yeah.
Okay, so if I were to say to you, can you picture in your mind a sheep? That's not something that you can do.
Not visually. I mean, I could describe what a sheep looked like.
When I was younger, I just thought that's what everybody's mind was like because I didn't have any other experience. And so a few years ago, I found some other people talking about the lack of pictures in their mind. And I was like, wait, other people do have pictures in their mind and we're different. Like there's a lack of pictures. And so I learned a little more about it.
Okay, now those are two people that I know, and they've been in my group, my online group, for a couple of years, so I know that they're reliable people. The first person there is somebody that I've done in-person contact events with 2 or 3 times. He actually came out into the desert and camped out there where the tall white beings live. And we watched the UFOs over Area 51. So I know these people, I know they're reliable. And it was about 2 years ago when I led a online remote viewing activity. And one of those gentlemen is going to talk about what they perceived now. And yet, you've had some experiences in my online meetings where you did, in your mind, receive visual images. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, 2 years ago, I was in one of your sessions that you were offering a remote viewing group sort of thing. Not really expecting anything to happen, and then I started to see or get some shapes and some movements that were starting to pop up.
So during that remote viewing activity, I was guiding people to a time and a place, and I had a photograph of that time and that place, but you didn't know what was on the photograph. You didn't know where we were going. Would you mind just describing what you started to see when we were doing that remote viewing?
I can actually even share the drawing. I found it last night when I was looking through my notes. So this was, we didn't know at the time what it was, and you basically just kind of mentally took us to the center of the image and then just kind of around the edges. In this particular session, what I perceived in my mind, I got sort of like a triangular shape of some kind of orange blob, and I got the sense of like dark purple or darkness around this thing. So in my mind, I'm thinking it's a pyramid or something, because sort of the shape and everything. As you're going around the edge, I'm getting a sense of something that seemed like trees. Well, actually, in the middle of this whole thing, I did get a word in my head that just popped into my head, which said volcano. But I wrote it down with a question mark. And then the other interesting thing, which I've never really seen or happened before, is I start to see like these orange lights, like they're falling down, like across my closed eye vision. Like just kind of but I'm noticing motion and this orange bright color just kind of moving down top to bottom. And then as you're directing us to the foreground, I'm getting a sense there was something smooth, like smooth rocks, like river rocks that have been touched by water. And then you came through and you're like, oh, this was the eruption of some Indonesian volcano in the middle of the night or whatever. You pull up the image and it was like, obviously volcano, you got the lava coming down, it's dark purple all around, and so it was kind of eerie how accurate this was.
So you were actually seeing images in your mind that were completely consistent with what I later told you was an erupting volcano.
It seemed to be, yeah, especially since the word volcano popped into my head in the middle of the session, just kind of out of the blue. So it was a little weird.
So there's kind of 2 paranormal elements to this. One, that you got it right, you got a volcano, but also that you're seeing images where typically you do not see images in your mind.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to play more of those videos in a couple of minutes, but let me just explain remote viewing and aphantasia to people who are just tuning in. The gentleman that you just heard talking, who is in my online group, he has aphantasia. He is not able to form images in his mind throughout his life. If he's if people have said to him, try counting sheep, he doesn't get that literally people, when they're falling asleep, they can actually form images in their minds of sheep jumping over fences. So he's never had that. So he attended one of my online remote viewing sessions in which I take people into a meditation, and then I guide people to move to a certain time and place psychically, astrally. This is astral projection. And what we do is, I've got a photo in front of me of a time and a place. And in this example, it was of a erupting volcano in Indonesia. And I am taking people, I'm pulling people's minds with me to the location of that erupting volcano. And once there, I act as a monitor. And what I start doing is suggesting stimulus words that people can then look and perceive and try and figure out what's there. So, for example, I will say something like color. And whatever color comes into people's minds, that's what they write down. I will say texture or temperature, or look to the middle. What do you see in the middle? What do you see at the top left? Try turning around. What do you see behind you? So I act as a monitor to guide people in opening up their perceptions to get little bits of information. This is called remote viewing. If anybody's interested, the history of remote viewing is quite interesting. Several decades ago, the CIA was interested in figuring out, is there any paranormal psychic abilities that can be used by the CIA in their work, in trying to figure out what other countries are doing around the world. And this one guy called Ingo Swann, he was one of the people that was experimented upon by the CIA through the Stanford, I never know if it's Stanford or Stanford Research Institute or University. And he said, well, listen, if you give me the coordinates of anywhere on the planet, I will take my mind there, and then I will have a look around and I'll tell you what's there. And they tested him, and they did that. They were giving him coordinates anywhere on the planet, and he was reliably, repeatedly able to tell them what was there. And he could go underneath the ground, he could move through underground secret tunnels and corridors, and he could look in filing cabinets, he could read people's name badges and things like that. And they were so impressed with this that Ingo Swann headed up a new team of remote viewers for the CIA. They would come and they would give the team of remote viewers target locations for the remote viewers to remote view. They would take their minds to a certain place in a certain location. The remote viewers were not told where they were going. The CIA didn't want to reveal too much information, secret information, to the remote viewers. So the remote viewers were doing this blind. And the way it worked was the targets that they were given were tagged. That means they were given a code. And the code was arbitrary. It could be anything. It could be a number 87. And they would write that tag on their paper, and then they'd start to try and take their minds to the tagged location. They didn't need to know what the tagged location was. Our minds have the ability to connect with that location, form some kind of a psychic link to it, and then almost like a spiritual magnet, draw ourselves to that location. And that is remote viewing. This is something that the CIA has openly acknowledged they have done. And you can even go to the CIA website, and I'm not quite sure where it is on the website now, but in the past you used to be able to go to their library section and search for remote viewing, and up would come their remote viewing documents, some of their older remote viewing documents. One of the documents is a guide. It's like a 69, 70-page guide to remote viewing. And they go into scientific detail about this remote viewing process. And that's something you can download, you can read, and you can learn from the CIA how to remote view. One interesting thing about Ingo Swann is he was once hired by people, he didn't really know who they were, it was very secretive, but they asked him to go to the moon. And so he took his mind to the moon, and he was astonished to see that when he took his spiritual consciousness towards the surface of the moon, he started to see people on the moon, but they weren't like human beings. And in one of his books, he describes this, that he could see these short, odd-looking people, and when he went towards them, what was very shocking to him is that they suddenly turned around because they noticed that he was there. They noticed that his astral body or spiritual presence was there watching them, and they turned around and saw him. And he was a bit freaked out by it. But that was Ingo Swann seeing alien beings on the moon, which, of course, we know through a variety of different sources now there are alien beings living underneath the moon. It's going to be very interesting when NASA takes people back to the moon in the next few months, year or two, to see if there are any sightings that are seen publicly of alien craft around these moon rockets. Because in the 70s, in 69 to 72, when the Apollo mission rockets flew to the moon, some of those astronauts have come forward and said, yeah, that there was alien craft following us every time we went there. There were alien craft watching us all the time when we were on the moon. There were alien craft that followed us back. And there's some significant evidence for that. So yeah, there are aliens living around under the moon. I have guided people in remote viewing sessions to the moon. And the people I've guided there, they didn't even know they were going to the moon, but they've drawn pictures of craters and aliens. And one of my friends, who's a really talented remote viewer, she didn't know where we were going. I could have been taking people to Australia, to like a restaurant in Australia, but she started to write things like craters, moonish, aliens. And so remote viewing is a thing. And I teach remote viewing. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard to do once somebody has taught you how to do it. So we're going to keep, a door just blew closed. We're going to keep, I'm going to show you another video now of these two aphantasics and the psychic perceptions that they've picked up on during my remote viewing sessions. But what's really interesting is that sometimes when you do meditations with me and we astrally project to different locations, different beings, you can see them as an image in your mind. Is that correct?
Yes, when we've done astral projections in the past, I've seen glimpses of like alien faces, or when we've done remote viewing to a target location, I've had like a general image of something that might be there.
Wow. So to me, this suggests that the sensory input you're getting during those remote viewings or remote communications, that is something that you don't typically receive in your everyday life. Is that correct?
Yes.
Actually, later in that session, you had us do like a NHI contact session, and that's when I actually received a very clear image which was quite bizarre because that was even beyond what I had just experienced with that remote viewing session. So this was, you had us guided us to, reach out to any NHI that would, benevolent NHI willing to communicate with us. So I did the meditation or whatever, and I thought I saw kind of the outline, the form of like a classic alien, gray type, whatever, that just kind of came and went. I was like, I don't know if that's real or not, but continue with the meditation. Like, is there a message that you have for me or whatever? And at that point, that sort of colory blob thing, there was a ill-defined sort of rough shape that showed up in my closed eye vision in the middle. So I could tell there was something there, but I couldn't tell the form, couldn't tell what it was. And so I basically asked, I was like, I can't tell what this is, ask for clarity. And it actually crystallized, it came very clear, almost like I was looking at a black light artwork that was drawn on like black velvet canvas, very iridescent colored, and it was an image of a cluster of mushrooms, which at the time had very significant meaning to me because of something else that happened the year prior that was guiding me towards some like a spiritual development path. That clarity, that visualization has never happened before in my experience.
So not only did you get a clear vision of these mushrooms, it had personal meaning to you.
Yeah, it was quite eerie, quite interesting, and yeah, it led me to do more research and experimentation with remote viewing and things like that. But yeah.
So that's a pretty amazing experience. We have somebody who is aphantasic, who is unable to form images in their minds. First of all, when I'm guiding them to a blind target, they 100% accurately, correctly are able to identify and see the image in their minds of that blind target, the volcano. And then after that practice, I then guide people to see NHIs, non-human intelligences. We reach out into the universe and we invite non-human intelligences to come in and communicate with us. And he sees the face of a non-human entity come into his mind. And then he sees this amorphous, colorful blob, and he doesn't know what it is. So he asks this being, can you please show me this more clearly? And what crystallizes in his mind's eye is this cluster of mushrooms. He is seeing an image in his mind, even though he is incapable of seeing images in his mind. And the way that this image is forming in his mind is it's coming into his mind from an external source into his mind. It is psychic vision. And this image, not only is he seeing this image after he's asked to see it more clearly, this image has personal meaning to him. So whoever is giving him this image is able to look into his mind, see who he is, see what he needs to see, and then give him this image. This is very profound proof of non-human intelligence communication, strong telepathic non-human intelligence communication. So that is very cool. And there's about 2 more minutes of this guy talking about another experience that happened recently. It was just a couple of weeks ago that him and the other guy were both in an online session where, again, we were reaching out to non-human intelligences. I do this all the time. This is how I make friends with them. And this is what he experienced. So when your eyes are open, you've got information coming in through your eyes into your brain, and you see images. When we do remote viewing or remote communication with different alien beings, you have a different type of information coming into your brain and giving you images. Is that correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. And you've been able to see the faces of aliens fairly clearly at times.
Yes.
That's really cool. So that's psychic vision, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's really cool too.
And you attended one of my contact sessions just a couple of days ago. And during that session, did you get any imagery come into your mind?
Yeah, that was, we were reaching out, I guess, to Arcturians or whatever, and I do see kind of the shape, the image, the form of a face. I can see sort of, it's like larger at the top, smaller at the bottom. I can see the eyes, I can see a mouth, I can see the chin kind of presenting itself, and it phases through this like repeatedly. And so as I see it repeating, and I'm like focused on it, concentrating on it. I'm like, is this thing changing? Is it staying the same? And it's pretty much staying the same. If anything, it's coming closer to me. But yeah, it's kind of, it was a little surreal. It's not definitely something to note, because it never really happened like that before. But
wow,
it's kind of weird.
So it seems to me like this is pretty strong evidence for the idea that when we are remote viewing or remote communicating with different beings, you are receiving some kind of sensory input that you don't typically receive in your everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So there is another exclusive discovery that I have discovered, that I am now presenting to you in this show, that we have a new piece of at least very strong evidence for psychic perceptions being real. And that evidence is coming to us through aphantasics, who are able to see visions forming in their minds during these psychic activities, where typically they're not able to form images in their minds. And what the implications of this are is that when anybody is doing these remote viewing activities or remote communication activities, then, we're seeing things in our minds, and a lot of people will not really know for sure whether or not these things that that are coming into our minds are imagination or real psychic perceptions. And what this aphantasic evidence is showing to us, that certainly with the aphantasics, it's not imagination. It can't be imagination. They don't have the ability to imagine these things. And that is, the implications are that it's very likely, therefore, that when regular people who are doing my remote viewing activities, it's very likely that they too are seeing real psychic phenomena and not just imagining things in their minds. Now, when I am doing remote viewing and things come into my head, I will see something. Like last night, I saw something pink and bright, like a star growing and forming in my mind that was either a bit below or a bit above an ocean. When I see things like that, if it's just me doing that by myself, I can't know for sure whether that's me imagining things or whether I'm actually perceiving things psychically, I have come to understand that if I just sit with the image for a while and wait, and maybe even try and push it away, if it stays there, then it's very likely to be a real psychic perception. But the proof comes when I'm doing the activity with a group of people. Last night, I did a quite a profound remote viewing exercise with somebody in my group. And actually, I wasn't leading this particular activity. It was my good friend, whom I'm sure you know, Laura, and she was leading it, and I was there supporting and participating. And several people saw and felt the same thing. And it seemed to be a being that was sort of a little bit higher up on the consciousness scale, on the evolution scale, than the typical humanoid beings that we talk to. It had a feeling that she described as biblical. Now, I'm not a religious person myself, as I'm sure you know, but we were experiencing the presence of some kind of entity that was a little higher up than what we typically experience, a higher state of consciousness, perhaps. The question was asked, "Are you God?" And they said, no. But it did still feel very profound. And the fact that several people were all having the same experience is logical proof that that experience was real. So that's another way that we can know that even if we're not aphantasic, another way that we can know that what we're seeing is a real paranormal experience. Now, the messages that were involved in last night's communication seemed to very strongly correlate. There was great synchronicity, you might say, with what I am presently working on in some of the videos that I'm making. I am working on a video that is going to be a complete overview of reality, starting with the Big Bang and going into the distant future, covering three-dimensional spaces and ultra-dimensional spaces. This is going to be probably a 2-hour video covering all aspects of reality. And I've just been joined by a non-human entity. Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. And the messages that I was getting last night, that we were getting last night, correspond very directly with what I am presently working on. And I was even able to read out some of the video narration that I'm currently working on. And when I read out this narration, it was like, this is it. This makes perfect sense. And what these beings were doing, what this entity last night was doing, was coming in to assist us with this very profound video that I'm working on, which is basically saying, this is what we need to leave behind. These are the beliefs and darknesses that we need to leave behind. This is what we need to embrace in order to go into the future. And if we do embrace these things and go into the future without all of our darknesses, then they are going to be helping us. They're going to be assisting us in ways that, well, the word biblical does apply in this case, in very profound ways. So if you like the idea of ever participating in one of my remote viewing activities, then this is where you need to go, to my Alien Contact Patreon group. There is a button in the middle of my Patreon group that says join for free. That's a good place to start. Or if you want to jump in and learn more with me and come to Galactic Council meetings and do a whole lot more alien contact activities with me, go ahead and join Tier 1. So I have talked in full now about all of that aphantasic evidence. I hope you found it interesting. If you've only just tuned in, then sometime go back to the start and watch through what I've just said. I am now going to make a switch, and I am going to switch back to something that we started last week, but I ended up having to rush through. And that is, it's kind of connected to moving into the future. In order for us to move into the future, we need to be able to be nicer to each other. We need to be able to understand each other better. There needs to be a lot less judging of each other. There needs to be just a lot more accepting people for who they are in a non-discriminatory way. And one thing that we can do in order to try to understand each other so that we can be nice to each other is delve into the science of psychology. And so last week I put up this image, which is a graphic representation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow was a psychologist in the 1940s, an American psychologist that came up with a set of needs that human beings have, starting at the bottom with our physiological needs, things like food, water, warmth, and rest, and moving up, building on top of that to things like safety needs, and then going higher up to belonging and love needs, and then higher up esteem needs. And then at the top are the needs that he described as self-fulfillment or self-actualization needs. Self-actualization is bringing into actuality ourselves, our fullest potential as individuals. And I have put together a couple of tables to help us to analyze whether or not we are, as individuals, meeting our fullest potential. Now, last week, I worked through the physiological needs, the safety needs, the belonging and love needs, and the esteem needs. Today, I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes looking at the higher level needs, self-actualization needs. Now, I will say that Maslow's hierarchy of needs sometimes has an extra layer on top. And there it is at the top, above self-actualization needs, is transcendence. Transcendence is more spiritual. It is transcending to higher levels, like ascension, like ascending. And so I'm going to talk through now human beings' self-actualization needs and transcendence needs. Now, when I use the word needs, these are not things that I'm going to go through that we need in order to survive. These are things that we need if we want to reach our fullest potential, or if we want to transcend. So it's not technically things we need to survive, but things that we need to self-actualize. And so here is one of two self-actualization tables that will help people to meet their higher level self-fulfillment needs. Creative fulfillment. Do you feel like you're currently fulfilling your fullest creative potential? And now if you think you are, and you can answer yes, well, that's good. That's good. And psychologically, that will be beneficial to you. If you're on a no there, then if you want to improve your state of psychological well-being, then maybe go out and do some painting, or go and do some drawing out in nature. Maybe photography, do some photography of, I always say nature because nature is just naturally beauty, but it could be portrait photography, it could be any kind of photography of your pet. So creative fulfillment is a need that humans have. Another need, intellectual fulfillment. Now, a lot of people get all of the intellectual fulfillment they need when they go to school, or college, and then they do not need any more throughout their entire lives. But actually, being stimulated intellectually is valuable for us. It keeps our brains active, and it helps to keep us psychologically healthy. So this question is, do you feel like you're currently fulfilling your fullest intellectual potential? Do you use your mind in a way that is challenging to you to do whatever you do, whether it's improve the harmony of your family or whether it's discovering the secrets of the universe? The next question down is interest fulfillment. Human beings need to stay interested. They need variety, they need interesting things in their lives to stay psychologically fulfilled. It's the opposite of boredom. If you're feeling boredom in your life, then you need some interest fulfillment. Do you feel like you're currently fulfilling your fullest potential in the areas of life that matter to you? So that's very vague, that's very general. It really could be anything, because whatever areas of life matter to you, are you fulfilling your fullest potential in those areas, whatever interest you have? Health and fitness fulfillment. Now, this is a hard one because, some people have had injuries, have had illnesses, and not in the best of health. So it's hard to be extremely fit and healthy. But this question still applies. Do you feel like you're currently as fit and healthy as is reasonable for you personally to be? And if you think that you could be healthier or fitter, even if it's just like a fraction more healthy or fit, by maybe going for a walk around your garden every day, or maybe choosing to eat a little less unhealthy food, then why not go ahead and improve your life? This is not just psychological health, but this is also physical health. Then that's something that you might be able to work on. Then there is abilities utilization. In your life, do you feel like you have fully utilized any talents, skills, or abilities that you have? Whatever those talents, skills, and abilities might be. Maybe you're a really funny person and you have a talent for making people laugh. Have you made people laugh as much as you can? Maybe you're a wonderful singer or a talented landscape sculptor. It could be anything at all. But if you have not fully utilized the talents that you have as an individual, maybe you could do that. And it says, it's not saying it just for here in the past, it's also saying right now in the present. Or do you feel like you are currently fully utilizing them? And the final one in this chart, life goals. Have you accomplished the most important goals that you would like to accomplish in your life? This is a big question. This is a really big question. None of us know if we've got a tomorrow. None of us know if we're going to be in an accident tomorrow or suddenly discover we have an illness and we only have a few months to live. And if we could identify those things in your life that, not everything you want to accomplish, but the most important things. So if you're working on a book, are you going to be able to finish that book, or have you finished that book? Was that book that you finished writing, was that your most important goal in life? Not the only goal, not other goals that you might have in the future, but was it the most important goal? Because if you have not yet accomplished the most important goals that you would like to accomplish in your life, then get working on them, because you don't know how much longer you're going to have to accomplish those goals. And we're moving on to the second table here. Human relationship fulfillment. Now, most human beings, I would probably say almost all human beings, it is a big need in people's lives to have relationships with other humans that are fulfilling. And it could be any kind of relationship. But this question here is, do you feel like you're currently fulfilling your fullest potential in your relationships with other human beings, with family, with friends, with colleagues, or otherwise? It's a need to be psychologically and emotionally fit and healthy, to have your relationships needs fulfilled. And so if you're not able to answer yes for that, maybe that's something you could work on. Then this might make some people scratch their heads as to why this is here, but animal relationship fulfillment. Do you feel like you're currently fulfilling your fullest potential in your relationships with animals? Now, if any of you have pets, you will understand that people love their pets. There is something very special about having a relationship with animals, helping animals who are in need. If any of you have ever found an animal that is injured in any way, that needs help, a lot of people will help those animals. I myself have nursed back to health everything from seagulls to snakes, and probably upwards of 20 or 30 different animals in my lifetime. And the satisfaction that you get from forming a caring relationship with these animals is very fulfilling. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then here's a suggestion for you. Go to your local animal sanctuary and just go and feed the animals there and see their eyes light up when they see you. See the pigs and the cows and the chickens and running towards you, wanting to be your friend, wanting to connect with you. That is a beautiful thing. And when you start bringing animals into your life, it connects you more with nature, it connects you more with the world and the universe. There is something very special about it. I recommend doing it. Then we have paranormal entities, relationship fulfillment. Now, I don't know if this is a psychological need that needs to be on this table, but there is something very special when you connect for the first time with a non-human intelligence and you feel their energy wash through you, and it's a higher level energy, and it's beautiful and it's loving, and sometimes it's healing. There is something very special about it. And I very frequently have people who come to my alien contact meditations, whether it's in person or online. I frequently have people crying. Tears start flooding out of them because it's such a profound experience. Maybe that's something that you could try if you would like sometime. Moral potential towards humans. Do you feel like you're currently as considerate, kind, tolerant, respectful, and moral towards other human beings as is practically possible? And then there's the same one there for animals. Do you feel like you're currently as considerate, kind, tolerant, respectful, and moral towards animals as is practically possible? I've said before, but one day, who knows when, we will die physically. And when that happens, our spirits will continue to live. And we will be free to move out into the spiritual realms. And at that time, you will be able to look back at your life and see it as a whole thing. And you will be able to judge for yourself whether or not you lived your life well, whether you reached your fullest potential, whether you did everything you could in the best way that you possibly could. And I guarantee that when people die, they're not going to be looking back at their lives thinking, I should have made a bit more money and bought another couple of things on Amazon. That's not what people are going to consider to be successes. But when you can look back at your life and see that you helped that person over there one time, that you helped that animal over there another time, those are the things that really matter. And I guarantee that when you look back at your life and you see all those occasions when you maybe were not as nice as you could have been to somebody, maybe you were mean, maybe you responded to something they did in a way that now that you look back at it, you could have handled that better. Did you spend your life attacking people, trolling people online, or were you spreading light and love? Well, yes is the answer that we need to be able to answer to these questions. Do you feel like you're currently as kind, considerate, tolerant, respectful, and moral towards other humans and animals as possible? Those are the things that are really going to matter to you one day when you pass away. So there are more things that I could look at. We have on this table here transcendence, transcending into higher dimensions, transcending beyond the lives that we were given, the lives that people helped us to attain. But we don't have time today for me to look at those transcendence tables. I guess I will hold on to them here, and next week or the week after, or whenever I find myself with little spare pieces of time in this show, I will present those to you. We'll keep working through all the way up to transcendence. What is interesting is I have beings around me now. I can feel their presence here. And so I thank you all for being here. This is what they want me to do. They want me to talk about them. They want me to teach people how to self-actualize and transcend. So I'm going to put this up on my screen again. And if you would like to participate in my activities outside of this show, then please join my group. And I look forward to welcoming you into our remote viewing sessions and remote communicating sessions. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day, and I wish you peace, love, and well-being. You will take care. Goodbye for now.